Hello students, welcome to the session 4 of electrochemistry during these lockdown classes of EduShrine. Session 3 we ended with understanding and learning of standard hydrogen electrode, and while finishing that we understood that in the applications of standard hydrogen electrode we understood that the various substances will be connected to standard hydrogen electrode, and using voltmeter there the cell potential is determined, and from the cell potential and from the zero value of standard hydrogen electrode the electrode potential of the other substance is determined, right? And because it is standard hydrogen electrode, they maintained 1 molar concentration of solutions in both hydrogen electrode and the electrode in which potential is determined, and they maintained continuously 1 bar pressure for hydrogen. If the other electrode also is a gas electrode, they would have maintained 1 bar pressure there also, and the determination is done at 298 Kelvin, that is room temperature. That's why all these reduction potential values determined are standard reduction potential values. Now for various substances against standard hydrogen electrode, SRP values are determined and they are placed in a proper order. In few series they would have printed in the increasing order, lowest to highest. In few series they would have printed in the decreasing order, highest to lowest. In the series that is printed in your EPL, we have printed it in decreasing order, highest to lowest. Whatever the case might be, various substances arranged in the order of their standard reduction potential values, that list is called electrochemical series. Series of substances arranged in the order of their standard reduction potential values. That's why I have all asked you, I have requested you in the last session to examine the electrochemical series once for 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know how many of you have examined. If not examined, pause this video once, examine and then get back to this. Now, in the electrochemical series, the substances are listed out and their SRP values are listed out, and you can clearly notice the reactions they would have given. And in every reaction that they have given in the electrochemical series, you can see electrons on the reactant side, which means electrons are gained, which means they are all reduction reactions. So they have provided you the potentials for reduction reactions. And you know very well how to get the potentials for the oxidation reactions. Just change the sign. We have practiced it already. So, electrochemical series is series of substances arranged in the order of their SRP values. Now, as I have requested you, pause the video for a while, examine the electrochemical series once and come back here, because I need to discuss now the applications of electrochemical series. So before I discuss the applications, it is better you examine it once. Hope you have examined and come back. Now, let me discuss the applications one by one. Using that list that you have, what are the various aspects we can assess, understand, utilize for understanding various properties? The first application of electrochemical series is comparison of reducing and oxidizing capacities of substances. Now, you must have studied last year, but however, let me quickly remind you once. There are two kinds of substances in redox reactions. One is the reducing agent, the other one is the oxidizing agent. Now, reducing agent is the substance which causes the reduction of the other substance. And to cause the reduction of the other substance, by itself, this substance has to undergo oxidation. So, reducing agent is a substance which undergoes oxidation during the redox reaction. So, on the same grounds, oxidizing agent is a substance which undergoes reduction during the redox reaction. By itself undergoing oxidation, it is causing the reduction of the other substance. By itself undergoing reduction, it is causing the oxidation of the other substance. For example, again, I will take the cell reaction of Daniell cell. Metallic zinc, when treated with aqueous copper, is producing aqueous zinc ions depositing metallic copper, right? Here, zinc is undergoing oxidation, as you can see. Its oxidation number is increased, it has lost electrons, changed from 0 state to +2 state, so it has undergone oxidation. Copper ions have undergone reduction by gaining 2 electrons, as you can see. Now, who has supplied electrons for copper ions to undergo reduction? Zinc. So, zinc is responsible for the reduction of copper ions, that's why zinc is the reducing agent. Who is responsible for pulling of the electrons and causing oxidation of zinc? Copper cations. So, copper ions, which is part of copper sulfate solution, is the oxidizing agent because it is causing the oxidation of zinc, pulling off 2 electrons from zinc and oxidizing it. That's why zinc is called reducing agent, copper ions are called oxidizing agent, or copper sulfate is called oxidizing agent. Now, zinc, to act as reducing agent, has undergone oxidation. Copper ions or copper sulfate, to act as oxidizing agent, has undergone reduction. So quickly, reducing agent undergoes oxidation, oxidizing agent undergoes reduction. I revised your first PUC. Okay. Now, the capacity of a reducing agent to act as reducing agent is called its reducing capacity. So please understand, no fallacy. Reducing capacity does not mean capacity to undergo reduction. Reducing capacity means the capacity to undergo oxidation, because to act as a reducing agent, it has to undergo oxidation. The one which readily undergoes oxidation is a good reducing agent. Then its reducing capacity is high. So, greater the tendency for oxidation, greater the reducing capacity of the element or the substance. Similarly, the capacity to cause the oxidation of the other substance is called oxidizing capacity of a substance. Now, to have high oxidizing capacity, the substance should be ready to undergo reduction. So, oxidizing capacity does not mean capacity to undergo oxidation, it means capacity to cause oxidation, that means capacity to undergo reduction. So, the one which readily undergoes oxidation is a strong reducing agent, its reducing capacity is high. The one which readily undergoes reduction is a strong oxidizing agent, its oxidizing capacity is high. That is point number 1 to be noted. Then point number 2 to be noted. What is electrode potential? Or we write E or E naught, electrode potential or standard electrode potential. What does it mean? It means the reduction potential. All the values you have in the electrochemical series are standard reduction potential values, because by convention electrode potential means reduction potential. What do you mean by reduction potential? Capacity to undergo reduction. The one having more reduction potential undergoes reduction more readily. If it is undergoing reduction more readily, its oxidizing capacity is greater. It's a stronger oxidizing agent. So please understand, higher the reduction potential value or electrode potential value, greater will be the tendency to undergo reduction, so more is its oxidizing capacity. So, oxidizing capacity is directly proportional to the electrode potential value. On the contrary, the one having lower SRP value or lower electrode potential value readily undergoes oxidation. The one which readily undergoes oxidation acts as a good reducing agent, its reducing capacity is higher. So, reducing capacity of a substance is inversely proportional to electrode potential. Please assimilate what I have told you once, and that's what you needed. I challenge you, every year, you can go back and check the question papers. Every year in every entrance, almost one question generally based on electrochemical series is surely asked. In that, comparison of reducing capacities and oxidizing capacities is the most commonly asked question. So no confusion whatsoever. Electrode potential means reduction potential, that is capacity to undergo reduction. That means capacity to act as an oxidizing agent. So oxidizing capacity is directly proportional to electrode potential. Reducing capacity is inversely proportional to electrode potential. The one having higher electrode potential acts as a good oxidizing agent. The one having lower oxidation potential, lower electrode potential acts as a good reducing agent. Now go back and examine your electrochemical series. On the topmost of the electrochemical series, you will find this reaction. F2 plus 2 electrons gives rise to 2F minus. On the bottommost of your electrochemical series, you will find this reaction. Li plus 1 plus 1 electron gives rise to lithium. Okay. Now, in electrochemical series, you can notice that for this one, you will see the standard electrode potential as 2.87 volts, and for this one, you will see the standard electrode potential as minus 3.05 volts. Now, in the decreasing order of electrode potential values, fluorine is the substance with highest electrode potential ever, and lithium is the substance with lowest electrode potential ever. Now, which clearly indicates, just now we understood, higher the electrode potential, greater the oxidizing capacity. You know very well, non-metals are electronegative. They readily gain electrons and form anions. That means they readily undergo reduction. That's why their reduction potential will be higher. You know very well, metals are electropositive. They have tendency to lose electrons and form cations. So they readily undergo oxidation. That means their electrode potentials are supposed to be low. So the the one with highest capacity for oxidation, the highest tendency for oxidation has got lowest electrode potential value. Now coming to the reducing capacity and oxidizing capacity. Fluorine readily undergoes reduction, hence it is a good oxidizing agent. Lithium readily undergoes oxidation, hence it is a good reducing agent. Now tell me, among all the substances, which is the best oxidizing agent? Fluorine, of course. Which is the best reducing agent? Lithium, of course. The best oxidizing agent has got the highest electrode potential ever. So, oxidizing capacity is directly proportional to electrode potential. The best reducing agent has got the lowest electrode potential ever, minus 3.05 volts. So, reducing capacity is inversely proportional to electrode potential. Likewise, looking at the SRP values of various substances from electrochemical series, you will be able to compare which is a stronger reducing agent and which is a stronger oxidizing agent. The second application of electrochemical series would be comparison of relative reactivities. Children, first, when do you call a substance more reactive? When the substance readily transforms into some other substance, and in case of elements, if it reacts with some other element and readily transforms into a compound, then you say that element is more reactive. Now comes the question, what is the meaning of reactivity for an element? The answer is, if it is metals, the reactivity is defined by their electropositive character. What is electropositive character? tendency to lose electrons and turn into cations. You know that. If it is non-metals, the reactivity refers to electronegative character. Again, not electronegativity. I am talking about electronegative character. What is the difference? Electronegativity is the tendency to pull the shared pair of electrons more towards it in its combined state, in its covalent molecule. Whereas electronegative character is the tendency to gain electrons readily by the isolated atom of that element to form readily the anion. Okay, Xn minus, right? I'm sorry, Xn minus. Okay, so please understand, for metals the reactivity refers to electropositive character. Electropositive character refers to tendency of losing electrons, and losing of electrons is called oxidation. So more the tendency of oxidation, more reactive the metal is. Similarly, for non-metals, reactivity refers to electronegative character. Electronegative character means tendency to gain electrons and become anion. That is nothing but reduction. So more the tendency to undergo reduction, more the reactivity for a non-metal. So now let us understand. When it comes to metals, you want it to readily undergo oxidation. Now if you want it to readily undergo oxidation, its electrode potential must be lesser, because the one having more tendency for oxidation would have lesser electrode potential. So lower the electrode potential, more the reactivity. Lower the electrode potential, more the reactivity. For whom? Metals. Now come to non-metals. As I told you, for non-metals, more the tendency for reduction, greater is the reactivity. Our reactivity refers to electronegative character, that is tendency for reduction. Now for the tendency, for reduction tendency greater, then the electrode potential has to be more. So more the electrode potential, more the reactivity. Let us understand with examples. Again, keep electrochemical series before you while deciding this. Keep the electrochemical series and listen to my explanation. Say, let me take maybe 3 metals, one magnesium from alkaline earth metals, S block, other one zinc from D block, other one copper also from D block. Now, magnesium electrode potential value you would have seen minus 2.37 volts there, if I am not wrong. Zinc electrode potential value you must have seen minus 0.76 volts there, if I am not wrong. And copper electrode potential value you would have seen plus 0.34 volts there, if I am not wrong. So you know very well, among these 3 elements the most reactive is magnesium. Next is zinc, and least reactive, even lesser reactive than hydrogen, is copper. So you can clearly notice magnesium having lowest electrode potential is most reactive. Copper having highest electrode potential is least reactive. So for metals, reactivity is referred to electropositive character or tendency for oxidation. So lower the electrode potential, more the reactivity. Now keep the electrochemical series before you. You have a huge list of metals there. You can compare which metal is most reactive, which metal is least reactive conveniently. It is a more comprehensive and in detail explained and experimentally supported reactivity series. Otherwise, you had a qualitative reactivity series in your school where you used to arrange the elements, metals in the decreasing order of their reactivity. Now the electrochemical series is a quantitative reactivity series that you are getting there. Okay. Similarly, let us take fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine. You know very well, fluorine is most reactive and iodine is least reactive. You must have studied already. Now, that is supported by the electrode potential values present in your electrochemical series. You can compare fluorine with 2.87 volts would be highest and iodine with 0.54 volts would be lowest. And you know very well, fluorine can displace chlorine from its salt solution. Chlorine can displace bromine from its salt solution. Bromine can displace iodine from its salt solution, and the reverse is not true. You would have studied that in non-metal displacement reactions in your school. So, using the electrode potential values present in electrochemical series, you will be able to clearly explain the relative reactivities of metals as well as non-metals. When you are comparing the metals, look for the one with lowest potential. When you are comparing the non-metals, look for the one with highest potential. The third application for electrochemical series is determining the spontaneity of a given redox reaction. See, on paper I can write any comfortable redox reaction. Say I write a displacement copper solid dipped in the aqueous solution of ferrous sulfate to form aqueous solution of copper sulfate depositing the solid iron. Now, this looks very nice displacement reaction on the paper, but you must have studied in your school that this reaction is not feasible. That means when you put copper into ferrous sulfate solution for indefinite amount of time you wait, nothing is going to happen. Why? Copper being less reactive than iron cannot displace iron. How do we justify this? And similarly, this was a very easy and popular example, so you can recognize easily. But any other examples that you do not know, how do you recognize that it is non-spontaneous, or how do you recognize that a given reaction is spontaneous? Comes from the SRP values of electrochemical series. Say, I will calculate E0 cell for this particular reaction. Okay. Now you can clearly see copper couple is undergoing oxidation, it is the anode here. And you can clearly see iron couple is undergoing the reduction and it is the cathode here. Right? Because copper changing from 0 to +2, iron changing from +2 to 0. Now with that you can understand the formula for cell potential of this cell will be E0 ferrous / iron minus E0 cuprous / copper. That is E0 cathode minus E0 anode. Now from electrochemical series you can get the value E0 of iron ferrous couple will be minus 0.44 volts and E0 of copper will be minus 0.34 volts. Now when you do the calculation you are going to get minus 0.78 volts. Now what do you mean when the E0 cell value is coming negative? For us, already in the last class I have told you last session, for a reaction to be spontaneous, E0 value has to be positive. Because when the E0 cell value comes positive, it means that that cell is undergoing, reaction is producing the voltage. That reaction is giving us the voltage. If E0 cell is coming negative, what does that mean? We have to supply voltage in turn to that. That means it is a non-spontaneous reaction and it can be conducted only if you pass electricity. Which means that E0 cell negative indicates the reaction is non-spontaneous. So that way, when a reaction is given to you, you have to do two things. One, identify which part is undergoing reduction, which part is undergoing oxidation. So for the given, use the reduction couple electrode potential, oxidation couple electrode potential in the E0 cell formula, and if the value comes positive, that reaction is spontaneous. If the value comes negative, that reaction is non-spontaneous. Up to that things are clear and easy, right? Further, instead of substituting everything and doing calculations, just looking at the values itself you can tell. Why? For this value to come positive, here it is E0 cathode minus E0 anode, right? If this value has to be coming positive, which value should be larger? Obviously, the cathodic value should be larger. Now, no need to substitute, calculate and check whether the value is coming positive or negative. If cathodic potential is larger than anodic potential, the reaction is spontaneous. If cathodic potential is smaller than anodic potential, the reaction is non-spontaneous. Here you can see E naught Fe2 plus slash Fe value is minus 0.44 volts. E naught copper 2 plus slash copper value is plus 0.34 volts, and according to the given reaction, copper is anode. The one acting as anode is appearing to have greater potential, the one acting as cathode is appearing to have lesser potential. That is impossible. The one acting as cathode is undergoing reduction. If it undergoes reduction, it has to have more potential. So because the anode is having lower potential, this is non-spontaneous. Now the next application is capacity of metal to displace hydrogen. Even this you are familiar in school. You know few metals can displace, of course. One of the characteristic properties of acids we learn will be it can get the hydrogen in an acid can get displaced by the metal and the acid liberates hydrogen gas. That reaction, whether a given metal shows or not, that can be recognized from the SRP values present in the electrochemical series. For that, let me take a general hydrogen displacement reaction. Say there is a metal M, for example, whose valency is N, let us assume, is reacting with aqueous solution of HCl, let us say. Then it will be forming a chloride called MClN and liberates hydrogen gas. Okay, now balancing, I am not worried just now. See, the point to be noted here is metal has changed from zero oxidation state to N plus positive oxidation state. So metal is undergoing oxidation, whereas hydrogen has changed from plus oxidation state to zero oxidation state. That means hydrogen couple is undergoing reduction. So here you know that E naught value of H plus slash H2 couple is 0 volts and it must act as cathode. As per, if the metal displacement, hydrogen displacement reaction of a given metal has to be spontaneous, then hydrogen electrode must be cathode. And if hydrogen electrode is cathode, it must have greater potential than the Mn plus couple. So E naught Mn plus slash M must be greater than E naught H plus slash H2, that is compulsory for you. And already we know E naught H plus slash H2 is 0 volts. E naught H plus slash H2 must be greater than E naught Mn plus slash M. And we already know H plus slash H2 is 0 volts. That means this must be lesser than 0 volts. That means it must be having negative potential. You know very well the elements like sodium, magnesium, zinc, aluminium, iron, lead. Only these elements can displace hydrogen. And you can check your electrochemical series. All these metals, which we call them active metals, are metals which are capable of displacing hydrogen, will be having negative electrode potential. So simple. All the metals with negative electrode potentials can displace hydrogen from acids. All the metals with positive electrode potentials cannot displace hydrogen from acid. Last and simplest application to learn is determination of E naught cell values or standard EMF values. Now what is there? Any galvanic cell is given to you. Combination of any two electrodes from that electrochemical series is given to you. Electrochemical series gives you SRP values and you know the formula E naught cell is equal to E naught cathode, the one having more potential, minus E naught anode, the one having lesser potential. So for any combination of two redox couples from that list, you can calculate what will be the standard cell potential. Accordingly, you can tell which cell will be more efficient, which cell will be less efficient. That way, tell me, combination of which two redox couples from that electrochemical series gives you highest cell potential? If you have answered fluorine lithium couples, if you are absolutely correct. F2 F minus coupled with or linked with or connected with Li plus Li couple, lithium plus lithium couple would give you the highest cell potential, because fluorine has got the highest cathodic potential and lithium has got the highest anodic potential. That means lowest electrode potential. That's why that combination would give you the highest cell potential. So we have discussed 5 applications of electrochemical series. 1. How to compare reducing and oxidizing capacities of substances. 2. How to find relative reactivities of elements, be it metals or non-metals. 3. How to find out whether a given redox reaction is spontaneous or not. 4. Whether a given metal can displace hydrogen from an acid and liberate hydrogen or not. And 5. For any given combination, how to find the standard cell potential of a given galvanic cell. Okay. Now, to improve our understanding of the applications of electrochemical series that we just finished, let us solve this learning exercise 3.4 containing simple theoretical questions which, as I have already mentioned, are very popular both in board exam and entrance examinations. The first question for you was, you can have the worksheet before you and I have briefly written the question here. The first question was, magnesium has an electrode potential of minus 2.36 volts. Aluminium has an electrode potential of minus 1.66 volts. Which is the stronger reducing agent among the two? Again, reducing agent must readily undergo oxidation. The one which readily undergoes oxidation must have lower electrode potential. So lower the electrode potential, more the reducing capacity. Out of the two, which is having lower electrode potential, magnesium is having a lower electrode potential of minus 2.36 volts. That's why your answer is magnesium. Again, hope you are trying to answer it before I am solving it for you. Pause the video, put your answer, then check the solution. If you are right, appreciate yourself. If not, correct yourself. Don't scold yourself, but just correct yourself. Okay? Right. Then, potassium couple, silver couple, mercury couple, magnesium couple, chromium couple, their electrode potentials are given. Now he is asking you to arrange them in the increasing order of reducing capacity. Again, especially in entrances, being in hurry, we don't concentrate on these words, increasing order or decreasing order. Be careful, because you follow the reverse order and lose marks unnecessarily. Increasing order means starting the weakest reducing agent to the strongest reducing agent. Now, just now we understood lower the electrode potential, stronger the reducing agent. Here he wants the weakest first. Weakest reducing agent would have highest electrode potential. So among the given ones, which one is having highest electrode potential for us? Silver. Of course, silver and mercury very close to each other, but silver is having the highest electrode potential. So observe, the one with highest electrode potential will be the weakest reducing agent. So silver less than. Second highest electrode potential is for mercury. So mercury will be second weakest, less than. Then next higher electrode potential is present for chromium. So chromium is greater than mercury and then lesser than magnesium, I can say. And the strongest reducing agent would be potassium. Strongest reducing agent would be potassium. So the one with lowest potential is the strongest reducing agent. The one with highest potential is the weakest reducing agent. We are clear here. Okay. Moving on. The third question, a similarly dissimilar question. Iodide couple, chlorine chloride couple, bromine bromide couple, auric gold couple. Auric ion is Au3 plus. So auric gold couple potentials are given and you are asked to identify the decreasing order of their oxidizing capacity. Iodine, chlorine, bromine and auric chloride. Again, oxidizing capacity. The strong oxidizing agent is the one which readily undergoes reduction. For the tendency of reduction to be greater, the electrode potential also should be greater. So oxidizing capacity is directly proportional to the electrode potential. You want the highest first. Decreasing order means highest first. Strongest oxidizing agent is the one which has got highest electrode potential. Which one here has got the highest electrode potential? Gold. So auric chloride would be the strongest oxidizing agent, followed by second highest electrode potential is for chlorine. So chlorine will be the second strongest oxidizing agent. Then bromine would be the third strong oxidizing agent and iodine would be the fourth strong oxidizing agent. The one with highest electrode potential is the strongest oxidizing agent. The one with lowest electrode potential is the weakest oxidizing agent. Let's move on to the fourth question. In fourth question, you have a set of 4 reactions and adjacent to them the potential values are given and you are asked to find out strongest reducing agent and strongest oxidizing agent among them. Answer is easy. The principle behind the answer is very easy. To get the strongest reducing agent, I need to look for the one with lowest potential. To get the strongest oxidizing agent, I need to look for the one with highest electrode potential. That I will do, but please observe, all the 4 given are not electrode potentials. That means reduction potentials. Remember when I was introducing electrode potential to you and talking about the notations used for it, I told you examiners try to confuse you by giving oxidation potential in the place of reduction potential. If reaction is given and electrode potential is given adjacent to it, please observe whether he is giving reduction reaction or oxidation reaction. Similarly, if he is giving E0 and then putting the reaction as the subscript, please observe whether he is putting reducible/reduced or oxidizable/oxidized. That way, if you see, iodine to iodide, of course, reduction, no problem. Permanganate to manganese, of course, reduction, no problem. Whereas, observe here, ferrous to ferric is actually oxidation. Ferric undergoes reduction, ferrous undergoes oxidation to form ferric. So, here the value given is oxidation potential. We will have to convert it to reduction potential. So, for the reverse reaction, E0 Fe3 plus /Fe2 plus is going to be plus 0.77 volts. Keep that to do the comparison. Similarly, tin to stannous ion, he has given electrode potential as 0.14 volts. You can notice tin to stannous is oxidation, but we want reduction potential. So we need to check stannous to tin. Stannous to tin, it is going to be minus 0.14 volts. Now compare these 4 values. Among the 4 values, whichever is lowest, that substance is the strongest reducing agent. You can notice that tin couple is having the lowest electrode potential. So, reducing agent is the one which undergoes oxidation. Among tin and stannous ion, which undergoes oxidation? Tin. So, tin is the strongest reducing agent. Similarly, to get the oxidizing capacity, you must check for highest electrode potential. Among all the 4, the highest electrode potential is for permanganate. So, potassium permanganate is the strongest oxidizing agent and tin is the strongest reducing agent. Move on to question number 5. See, dichromate is changing from +6 to +3, which means dichromate is undergoing reduction acting as oxidizing agent. Similarly, chloride is changing from -1 to 0. That means chloride is undergoing oxidation. That means it is acting as reducing agent. Now, of course, in the question, the electrode potential values were not given to you because in the study material, very adjacent to this exercise, you have got the electrochemical series. But don't worry, you need not by heart or memorize any electrode potential values. They will be given in the examination. Now, from electrochemical series, if you observe, for dichromate chromic couple, the electrode potential you will see will be 0.33 volts. For the chlorine chloride couple, you will see an electrode potential of 0.36 volts. And as I explained you in the applications, for the reaction to be spontaneous, the cathodic half should have more potential. Cathodic half should undergo reduction. So the couple involved in reduction must have more potential. But if you see here, dichromate couple is involved in reduction and that is having lower potential. Chloride chlorine couple is involved in oxidation and that is having higher potential. According to this reaction, dichromate couple is cathode, chloride couple is anode, and cathode is, a species with lower potential is shown to be cathode. A species with higher potential is shown to be anode, and that's impossible. So, it is a non-spontaneous reaction. If you want to verify yourself, what you can do, substitute these values in the cell potential formula, you will get a negative value for cell potential obviously, which proves that such cell reaction doesn't occur, so such cell does not function. Okay, now let us move on to question number 6. In 6th question, if you notice, a guy Ankit has stored copper sulfate solution in iron vessel. A girl Anusha has stored ferrous sulfate solution in copper vessel. The question asked is, out of these two students, who is ignorant of electrochemistry, who doesn't know electrochemistry and why? You can clearly understand here, if you go to your electrochemical series, copper 2 plus / copper couple has a potential of 0.34 volts. Ferrous iron couple has a potential of -0.44 volts. Now, regarding storing the given solution in the metallic vessel, first of all, it is always ideal to store solutions in glass vessels, safe side. But if you want to really store in a metallic vessel, the metal in which you are storing this solution should be less reactive than the metal present in the solution. Otherwise, the vessel, where the metal present in the vessel will displace the metal present in the solution, and there will be, the chemistry, the substance nature will be lost. So that should not happen. That's why ferrous sulfate solution being stored in copper, copper sulfate solution being stored in iron, which is a mistake. For the metallic vessel to come and displace the metal ions present in the solution, the metallic vessel should be more reactive, more electropositive. To be more electropositive, its electrode potential should be less, because electropositive character means tendency to undergo oxidation, so its electrode potential must be less. Out of these two, who is having less electrode potential? Iron. So iron being more reactive can displace copper. You know it from school also. That's why placing copper sulfate in iron solution was iron vessel was a wrong approach, because iron can displace copper ions from copper sulfate solution. Whereas when ferrous sulfate solution is placed in copper, nothing will happen because copper cannot displace iron. So who was ignorant of electrochemistry here? Ankit was ignorant of electrochemistry. Moving on to the 7th question. A set of elements are given. They must be placed in the order of displacement. Means the leftmost one should be able to displace the right one. Leftmost one should be able to displace all the ones present in the right. That means you need to arrange them most reactive to least reactive. because more reactive element displaces the less reactive element from its solution. Most reactive means least potential. Now you get the potentials from your electrochemical series and observe that among these the least potential will be for magnesium. So magnesium can displace all the other elements from their solutions of their salts, and then second lowest value will be for aluminium. Third lowest value will be for iron. It will be for zinc because zinc is minus 0.76. Fourth one will be iron, last one will be copper because this will be minus 2.37 magnesium, aluminum will be minus 1.66, zinc will be minus 0.76, iron will be minus 0.44 and copper will be plus 0.34. So the one with highest potential gets displaced, the one with lowest potential displaces. Okay. On that note, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, copper. Magnesium can displace all these four. Aluminium cannot displace magnesium but can displace these three. Zinc cannot displace magnesium and aluminium but can displace these two, and so on. Okay. Moving on to the 8th question. The question given here is whether the reaction between given couples, this is an NCERT question, interesting question, whether the given couple can exhibit a spontaneous redox reaction or not, whether a reaction will be feasible between them or not. This is the question. And look at the beauty of the question. He has not even given you the reaction, he has just given you the couple. Means you should only be able to think and identify which one will be reducing agent, which one will be oxidizing agent, and whether the reaction can occur or not. And if you can identify that, identifying feasibility will be very easy, spontaneity will be very easy. Okay, now observe here. Iron is already in its highest oxidation state. Tell me, if a given element is already in its highest oxidation state, the only reaction it can undergo will be? Please understand, if a given element is in the intermediate state, by increasing its oxidation number it can undergo oxidation, by decreasing its oxidation number it can undergo reduction. But if it is already in its highest or lowest possible oxidation states, it cannot undergo both oxidation and reduction. It can undergo only one. Now, if it is already in its highest oxidation state, the only reaction it can undergo is reduction. If it is already in its lowest oxidation state, the only reaction it can undergo is its oxidation. Now, iron is its highest oxidation state already. That means it can only undergo reduction. By undergoing reduction, ferrous ion becomes ferric ion. Similarly, iodine is already in its lowest oxidation state. -1 is the least oxidation state any halogen can exhibit. So iodine is already in its least oxidation state. It can only undergo oxidation. Good. Now, iodide has to become iodine, molecular iodine. So, if any reaction is possible between these two species, that is this reaction. Now, to check whether this reaction is spontaneous or not, that is, ferrous ions reducing to ferric ions while iodide ions oxidizing to iodine. So, when ferrous solution and some iodide solution, say potassium iodide solution, is mixed together, whether this reaction occurs or not depends on their electrode potential values. Now, as we discussed, this is reduction, means iron couple is cathode. This is oxidation, means iodine couple is anode. Now, as I have already mentioned to you, the cathodic half should have more potential. Let us check. The electrode potential of iron couple is 0.77 volts. The electrode potential of iodine couple is 0.54 volts. So you can clearly see the cathodic couple is having more potential. Hence, this reaction can occur. This reaction can be spontaneous. So what we have done? We have observed both the species and checked which species can undergo what reaction based on the oxidation state present on them. After understanding and determining what reaction has to happen, we observed which one is cathode and which one is anode. Then we decided, we compared whether cathodic half is having more potential or not. If it had more potential, it will be spontaneous. If not, non-spontaneous. You can notice that cathodic half is having more potential. Hence, this reaction can be absolutely. Now the second part of 8th question. Silver cation and copper metal. It's easy for you to assess. Silver is already in its highest oxidation state, so only thing silver ion can undergo here is reduction to become metallic silver. Copper is in its zero state and only thing it can undergo is oxidation to become ionic copper. Now you can notice silver couple is cathode here and copper couple is anode here. And you know very well electrode potential of copper couple is 0.34 volts. If you don't remember by so many examples we have taken, just check your electrochemical series. Silver couple is 0.80 volts and the one acting as cathode has more potential. The one shown to be acting as cathode has more potential than the one shown to be acting as anode. If cathode has more potential, that reaction is feasible. That's why even this is possible. Move on to third part of this question. Okay. See, ferric ions and bromide ions. Now, similar to this one. Absolutely similar to this one. So, ferric can undergo reduction, bromide can undergo oxidation, and the products would be ferrous plus bromine. Now, same as ferrous to ferric and iodide to iodine, ferric to ferrous and iodide to iodine, ferric to ferrous and bromide to bromine. But let us see if it is feasible. Same as the first one, here iron couple is cathode and bromine couple is anode. But here comes the problem. Ferrous to ferric couple, the electrode potential is 0.77 volts. Bromide to bromine couple, electrode potential is 1.09 volts. As I have been telling in every example, the cathodic half should have more potential. The species undergoing reduction should have more potential. Then only reaction will be feasible. Whereas here, the species undergoing oxidation has more potential. So, this process is not feasible. Moving on to the next one. See, bromine and ferric ions. These two he is showing to you. Now, bromine is a non-metal. Look at it. We need not even put the equation here. It is so common sense, you can understand that this reaction is not feasible. How? Bromine is a non-metal. It is in its zero oxidation state and against any metallic element, it readily should undergo reduction. So, bromine should undergo reduction and become bromide ion. Okay. Now, iron is in its +3 state, ferric state. Now, the iron's oxidation state is, highest possible oxidation state for iron is +3. It can also only undergo reduction. When both the species have a tendency for reduction, who is here to undergo oxidation? Nobody. That's why you can clearly tell here that this reaction cannot happen. Means when you mix bromine solution, elemental bromine and any ferric solution like ferric chloride, ferrous sulfate, there will be no reaction between these two substances. Now, let us imagine a hypothetical situation where I am assuming bromine to behave electropositive and lose electrons and undergo oxidation, because I can't expect ferric ions to undergo oxidation because iron is already in its highest oxidation state. So let us hypothesize that bromine may undergo oxidation because there is possibility for bromine to lose electrons and become Br+, assume, because bromine exhibits positive oxidation state in certain substances. Assuming that if you take the reaction, Br2 plus Fe3 plus gives rise to Br plus Fe2 plus. This should be the reaction. Let us not worry about balancing as of now. Let us just think whether the process is feasible or not. Bromine is shown to be undergoing oxidation, so here, and iron is showing to be undergoing reduction. So iron couple is cathode here and bromine couple is anode here. Now, the species shown to be undergoing oxidation, has a potential of 1.09 volts, and species shown to be undergoing reduction has a potential of 0.77 volts. Again, absolutely similar situation as this. If the species undergoing oxidation is having more potential than the species undergoing reduction, or the species undergoing reduction having less potential, such reaction is not feasible. Cathodic potential should always be larger for E0 cell to come positive and the process to be called spontaneous. Lastly, bromine ferrous couple he has given. Absolutely similar situation for us here. And I will not spend a lot of time, I'll quickly finish this story. Again, ferrous is capable of undergoing oxidation. Let us understand that. If ferrous undergoes oxidation, it becomes ferric by losing one electron, and bromine can only undergo reduction. By gaining electrons, it can become bromide ion. So you can understand here, iron is anode in this case because ferrous ion is losing electron, whereas bromine couple is cathode. For the process to be spontaneous, for you, cathodic potential to be larger. Bromine couple has a potential of 1.09 volts, ferrous ferric couple has a potential of 0.77 volts. Now the species shown to be undergoing reduction is having more potential. So this process is spontaneous. Relatively very interesting question. I would want you to again assimilate your knowledge in this, and if possible rewind this video, understand the solution again and try to answer it yourself even after understanding. That would help you. Let's move on to the next. If you notice the 9th question, zinc, copper, manganese, nickel, mercury, iron, silver, chlorine, gold, lead, bromine, cadmium. A set of elements are given and they are asking you to classify them into two groups. One group that is capable of displacing hydrogen from acids and liberating it as hydrogen gas. Other group that are not capable. In applications, we have understood all those elements which have electrode potentials cannot displace hydrogen from acids, can displace hydrogen from acids. All those which have positive potentials cannot. The one having negative potential is more reactive than hydrogen, hence can. The one having positive potential is less reactive than hydrogen, hence cannot. But here the meaning of reactivity is electropositive character, tendency to undergo oxidation. I told you there are two meanings for reactivity. For metals it is electropositive character, for non-metals it is electronegative character, but you know hydrogen is an exception. Though it is non-metal, it is electropositive. That's why its reactivity is compared with electropositive character. And that way, you keep electrochemical series in your hands. But what I am going to do is, I am going to tick mark those elements which can displace. Automatically the other ones cannot. So you know zinc has negative potential, minus 0.76 you will see in the series. So it can displace. Manganese also will have negative potential, it can displace. Nickel can displace. Iron can displace. Lead is at the verge of it, it can displace. Cadmium can displace. Non-metals of course cannot displace hydrogen because non-metals are more electronegative than hydrogen. Hydrogen is more electropositive than non-metals. And then metals like copper, mercury, silver, gold, though they are electropositive, less electropositive than hydrogen itself. That's an easy question for us. Moving on. Acids not stored in iron vessels, why? Again, this question is similar to that Ankit and Anusha question. Iron being more reactive than hydrogen, iron tends to displace hydrogen from acids very conveniently. And the reaction is going to be ferrous solid plus H plus aqueous gives rise to Fe2 plus aqueous plus H2. Now here iron is undergoing oxidation and iron couple electrode potential is 0.44 volts and hydrogen is undergoing reduction, its electrode potential is 0 volts. The one undergoing reduction having more potential, the one undergoing oxidation having less potential, perfectly suitable for the reaction to be feasible. That's why iron is going to displace hydrogen from acid and liberate hydrogen gas, because of which three problems will arise. One, inflammable gas is produced, which is not safe in the laboratory conditions. And two, the vessel gets corroded because it is being consumed for oxidation. And three, more importantly, the acid is consumed, whereas you are aiming to store that acid for some other purpose, not to produce hydrogen gas, right? You are aiming to store that acid, but that acid getting consumed. What is the use of storing like that? So that's why acids cannot be stored in iron vessels. Moving on. Silver, potassium, nickel, lithium, mercury, iron, chromium, lead and tin. We are supposed to arrange these elements as per the electrode potential values present. We are supposed to arrange these elements in the order of their reactivity. Now for doing that, I would need electrode potentials of each and every element. Let me write the electrode potentials of each and every element, then we will. Now for metals, as we just discussed, reactivity means electropositive character, tendency to lose electrons, and that is greater if the electrode potential is lower. You want the increasing order of reactivity, highest to lowest, increasing order of reactivity, sorry, lowest to highest. Now the one with largest potential is least reactive, the one with smallest potential is most reactive, that we know. Now you have the electrode potential values here. Which one is having highest potential here? Silver. So silver is least reactive metal. Then second highest potential comes out to be for lead, followed by tin minus 0.14, then followed by nickel, followed by, after 0.25, the smaller value, iron, followed by chromium, followed by, I'm sorry, I have missed out mercury in the beginning. Mercury is plus 0.79. So silver, after silver you have got mercury, then lead, tin, nickel, iron, chromium, then you have got potassium, then you have got lithium. So the one with the lowest potential minus 3.05, of course, that is the lowest potential ever among all the substances, and that is lithium. The one with highest potential, silver with 0.8 volts, that is least reactive. Now, I have an interesting question to ask you, especially at this corner. As you can notice, as per the electrode potential values, you saw that potassium is having a potential of minus 2.93 volts. Lithium is having a potential of minus 3.05 volts. That means lithium has lower potential, so appears to be more reactive, appears to have more tendency for oxidation, appears to be more electropositive. Now I have a question to you. Go back to your periodic classification chapter from first year. Try to recollect the list of alkali metals, and the first one among them is lithium. Then sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. This is the order, right? And what did you learn about electropositive character of metallic elements down the group? You are absolutely right. Down the group ionization energy decreases and metallic character or electropositive character increases. That way, according to that knowledge, potassium was supposed to be more electropositive. But that is theory. The values of electrode potentials given to you, there are practically observed values. And according to that value, lithium is appearing to be more electropositive than potassium. How come? How is this disparity or ambiguity can be explained and answered. Please, after this video, try to research about this or try to call up your teachers. Don't call me. Try to call up your teachers or try to refer the books and try to get me the answer. I'll give the question once more. As per your knowledge of ionization energy and electropositive character studied in periodic classification, potassium was supposed to be more electropositive than lithium, but as per the electrode potential values, you are noticing that potassium is less electropositive than lithium. Lithium is more electropositive among all the elements according to the electrochemical series. How do we explain this ambiguity? Okay, that's like homework for you. Apart from the home exercise 3.2, you are going to have soon after this. Okay, move on to the last question, question number 12. Tin couple electrode potential is minus 0.14 volts. Iron couple electrode potential is minus 0.44 volts. Can tin be used for sacrificial protection of iron? First of all, let me explain you what is sacrificial protection, though most of you should have studied in the metals and non-metals chapter in your 10th class. Sacrificial protection means, I know you have studied the process of galvanization. Iron vessels are dipped into molten zinc so that zinc forms a coating and reacts with atmospheric carbon dioxide and becomes zinc carbonate, and that zinc carbonate coating on the surface of iron avoids the rusting of iron. Then zinc has sacrificed itself to avoid the oxidation of iron here. So that is called sacrificial protection, because iron undergoes rusting because of its tendency to oxidize and form ferrous ions. If on behalf of iron someone else can undergo oxidation so that iron can be protected, then it is called sacrificial protection. That way, can tin sacrifice itself to undergo oxidation instead of iron and protect iron? That is the question. Now, to undergo oxidation more readily than a given element, this fellow should have lower potential. Compare the potentials. Who is having lower potential? Iron is having lower potential. Tin is having a larger potential. I hope you know that minus 0.14 is a larger value than minus 0.44. Because tin is having more potential, it cannot undergo oxidation instead of iron more readily. That's why tin cannot be used for the sacrificial protection of iron. So children, as you have noticed in this session, almost 1 or 20 minutes we have done this session. Entire session we have discussed electrochemical series and its applications, apart from solving all the 12 questions of learning exercise 3.4. Now, next session we will be having tougher numericals in terms of Nernst equations. What is that Nernst equations, how they are solved, and why we have to discuss Nernst equation and all, we will discuss in the next class. Before moving from here, few heads up. As you can notice, my board has changed. See, just 2 days before commencement of this nationwide lockdown, I got stuck in my native town. So whatever the resources available to me, with those only I am recording these videos. Point number 1. And please don't mind if my face was not so pleasing today, because I had to close all the doors to avoid noises and could not switch on fan also. That's why it was quite suffocating and sweating. I will try to do rest of my videos in the evening where there will be less sweating or suffocation. Sometimes I switched on fan for relaxation and forgot to switch it off, so you could see some noise, fan noise also in the middle. Bear with all those things. If you found any inconveniences in this video, post it to me. Thank you.